Empty the chamber on them. And how do you do that? First 6 seconds, point A to point B, everything you got. Everything you got. Turn that shit up. Let's go.
Welcome to Scoop World Order. It is a Scoop staff meeting special Tuesday night. We own Tuesday night. We've been doing this last few weeks. It's been fantastic. I have Bill Greene. I have Nevadabuck. We're reacting to a very tough loss. I've had our Michigan compadre, James Yoder, blowing my phone up, wanting us to go live with him. I was like, we got to get some business done real quick. We might do it a little bit later. Appreciate you, James. But as always, we're thankful and grateful for you guys. Check it out, BuckeyeScoop.com. The site traffic has been insane even since the loss. So thank you guys. Appreciate you guys. A lot of commentary. Can we get into the playoffs? A lot of optimism. We're going to see how that goes. Comment down below. First, like the content. Comment down below. Do you think we're going to get into the playoffs? There's a lot of optimism brewing around the Buckeye Nation right now, and it's really exciting. So with that being said, I'm going to bring in my good friends, Bill Greene and Nevadabuck. How are you guys tonight?
Good, man.
Oh, I'm better than I was Saturday, but maybe not as good as I'll be Saturday night. So I'm improving. I'm on the improve.
Oh man, I'm gonna start with you, Bank. Bank, do the Buckeyes get into the playoffs? Yes or no?
Well, I think they have a better than 50-50 chance. I mean, I think it's all up to Utah beating USC. They beat them once. I don't know why they can't beat them again. I'm a big Utah fan. I love the coach. Kyle Whittingham is as good as anyone is in the country. And I mean, that's the game. I mean, you watch it Friday night and you're going to know. But I think Utah can beat USC, and that would put Ohio State into the playoffs.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. Nevada, does Ohio State make the playoff?
Yeah, well, I've got a different. I think if either USC or TCU loses, then Ohio State's in the playoff. I mean, TCU, if they lose to Kansas State, they'll have an identical record. Well, they'll be a one-loss team with their loss being to number 13 Kansas State and their best win being against 13 Kansas State and number 21 Texas. And Ohio State's, losses to number 2 with their best wins over number 8 Penn State and over 19 Notre Dame. And I just think Ohio State will get the nod over TCU. I think anybody, realistically, if you had those two teams on a neutral field, Ohio State would be a clear favorite. TCU's played a number of games down to the last snap, won some games, in overtime and 29-28 on a last-second field goal. So I think that game control will come into that. Ohio State won every game by double digits up until this weekend. And I think the Ohio State game, despite the final score, was closer than I think anybody who watched the game realizes it was a relatively close game. 4-point game with 7 minutes to go, or 8-point game with 7 minutes to go, rather 4-point game getting into the fourth. So I think Ohio State gets in with either a USC loss or a TCU win. USC loss or a TCU loss. So I place I'd say it's about a 60-65% chance that Ohio State's in the playoffs. And for any of you bettors out there, you want to join me in the emotional hedge bet and bet the TCU to USC money line, which you can get at plus 195 right now, which I just placed a big bet on, figuring that if both those teams win, then I'm happy, and if one of those teams loses, then the Buckeyes are going to the playoffs. So that's my action for the day.
There you go. That's why you tune into the Scoop. We have people pouring in here right now. David Materek, hello. You wrote hello. All right, this is one of the resounding thoughts. People are either jacked up about the thought of getting the playoffs, and then Mark Dario. This is hopefully not. I'm not good getting killed by Georgia. Nevada, if we get into the Peach Bowl as a 4 seed versus the Georgia Bulldogs, are we going to get killed? Are we going to hang in there? I love the matchup compared to other teams, like compared to last year's Georgia team. I think our guys would be hungry. I think our guys would feel a sense of motivation. But what are your thoughts on if we got into the Peach Bowl versus the Georgia Bulldogs?
Well, I think we'd be underdogs, and Ohio State is an underdog. Traditionally, has been a pretty good selection. Would that be a tall order beating Georgia? Yeah, that would be a tall order. But it's football. You line it up and you take your chance, and that's why you play the games. Not a lot of people gave us a lot of chances against Alabama in 2015. Clearly different circumstances. We were coming in hot off the Big Ten championship game, but look, I'll take this Buckeye team. There aren't any great teams in college football this year. So you line up, you play the game, and you see what happens. Do I think Ohio State would win? Probably not. Do I think Ohio State could win? Absolutely. So let's line it up. Let's see how we line up against Georgia. I just want to get there. If we got there, it'd be one of the great comeback stories of all time. And I think everybody in Buckeye land would feel a great sense of relief that the season didn't end on Saturday in Columbus. So I think it'd be a great opportunity.
Bank, do you agree with that assessment?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think this is a total different year than last year. Last year, it was Alabama and Georgia, and then the gap was so huge back to all the other ones. You saw those Northern Lambs get into the playoffs last year, Cincinnati, Michigan. They just got dog walked all over the field. Same thing would have happened to Ohio State last year. They were a Northern Lamb, too. They'd have got murdered. This year, it's not that way. I think there are 10 teams that can win a national title. I mean, I can't sit here what you got to do is be playing at your best and play great football 2 weeks in a row, 120 minutes straight. I don't see a team that I guarantee could do that. So could Ohio State win it all? Of course they could. Could Tennessee win it all? Yes, they can. I mean, there's 10 teams that could win it all right now. So you got to get there, though. You got to be in the dance this year. This is not last year at all. I don't see a monster out there at all. I like the Georgia team. If forced to bet who I think would win it all, I would probably place a small bet on Georgia. I wouldn't want to put a lot of money on them. Could TCU win it all? Absolutely, they can. I mean, this is the year, man. This is the year to get in there and take your shot.
Yeah, I totally agree. There's not a 2019 LSU where you're like, oh my God, how are we going to cover Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson? There's not. I mean, you've seen years where there's that one team where you're like, oh my God, like when Alabama was Tua and Jerry Jeudy and when we saw him in 20 and they had Mac Jones and Najee Harris and I mean that was a monster task. And this year Devontae Smith. I mean they just had best O-line in football, first rounders everywhere. Like I mean that is not what it is this year. It's like when the number one team's quarterback probably isn't going to get drafted, Stetson Bennett, I know they've got outstanding talent, outstanding tight ends. The defense is outstanding, but it's not anywhere near what it was last year when they had the number one pick and the guy that won all the big trophies and Jordan Davis. So, and again, if by some miracle, because again, no one knows this better than I do because I'm the guy that lost on senior day as a captain to unranked Juice Williams, who he couldn't start for the Massillon or the Jackson Polar Bears, and he beat us at home as the number one team in the country. And in 07, they say it was the greatest year in college football history because it was Arkansas beats, Kentucky beats LSU, Arkansas beats LSU, Rich Rod goes down in flames to Pitt, LaShawn McCoy, Kansas or Missouri. One of them lost to Oklahoma in the Big 12 championship. Because I remember it was I had a parlay ticket. It was I had an 8-leg parlay that I was rooting for. They all hit. It was everybody was all these teams that you needed to lose lost. And then we slid to number one because we didn't play. In the old days of the Big Ten, you didn't play after Michigan. It was just you kind of sat around for 2 months or whatever it was. So, it can happen. I think it would be one of the most incredible redemption stories ever because, a week ago, nobody in the universe thought we'd be going to the Peach Bowl as the 4 seed. And now it's we're praying to go to the Peach Bowl as the 4 seed. So, Bank, I'm going to stick with you. Your reaction to the game. Now, I know we went in, we did our previews, predictions. I mean, me and Nevada thought, Ohio State pretty handily. I know you picked for your score. I just, again, they had some huge runs at the end. And again, I don't discount this at all. Credit to Michigan, whatever. But there's kind of empty net goals when they score 2 80-yard runs. Now, the first one, obviously, when it's an 8-point game, that was the icing on the cake. And then they throw that extra one for another 80 yards when there's a minute to go or whatever. And that all counts. I'm not discounting it. But if you don't run cover 0 and cover 1 the entire game, maybe run a little bit of zone and you don't give up, whatever it was, 5 plays of over 60 yards or 50 yards or, for touchdowns, I know that's a big ask where you say, okay, take away the 6 plays that went for 300 yards and But it's like, I mean, I don't know. It's like I've seen ass kickings before, and it's like, you know, you give up 5 really, really terrible plays, and the rest of the time it was decent. But I mean, I just think that our defensive scheme was just over aggressive. It's like running like goal line defense when you run cover 0, everyone's crowded. If one guy isn't there, it's a 75-yard touchdown. Yeah, it's like, I mean, that's a little suicidal, but that's what Jim knows what to do.
Yeah, and that was the absolute dumbest way you could possibly play Michigan. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They were not. Look, I mean, maybe there was no cable in Ohio to watch the Illinois-Michigan game. I mean, Michigan had their second highest scoring day of the year in the Big Ten against Ohio State. Indiana held them to 31. Illinois, 17 or something like that. They only scored more against Rutgers than they did against Ohio State. Oh. The defensive scheme was as dumb. This was worse than Tough Moreland covering Devontae Smith. This was worse. I mean, this scheme was about as dumb. You got to make J.J. McCarthy drive 80 yards in 12 plays over 5 minutes, thinking you're going to get a third down stop or he's going to screw up, or maybe hold him to a field. You can't let him get 60, 70 yards on one play. The cover 0 was so stupid, but he plays his style, and he said when he got hired, he loves to be aggressive. There's going to be big plays, but they'll make up for it with tackles for loss, fumbles, interceptions. Well, wrong.
Yeah, Nevada. Yeah, I was gonna say your thoughts on it. Like, I like to be aggressive too, but it doesn't mean I want to drive my car off a cliff. I'll drive fast, but I'm not gonna drive it off the cliff. Nevada, your thoughts on the game? Obviously, stunning, I think is a good word. I thought we had a good read on it. We said they're gonna run exotic fronts, and they did. They ran as exotic. Exotic doesn't always mean good. It means exotic. It's like if I was, hey, Bill, I'm gonna take you for her an exotic lunch. That might be amazing. It might be terrible. It might be whatever. But I mean, it's kind of what the defense was. Nevada, what were your thoughts on the game?
Yeah, look, I think it was a tale of two halves. I mean, the first half, Ohio State could have been up 21-3 or 28. I mean, it could have been ugly. They came out, went right down the field, scored. The first field goal by Michigan was a slip by Denzel. The second was a blown coverage by Cam Brown or whoever that was on the outside. I mean, I actually don't. I mean, I'd have to go back and really chart the plays. I mean, I've heard we played cover 0 all day. We played cover 1 all day. I'd have to go back and see if that's really exactly what happened. I mean, if that's true, then that would be bad. I'm not quite sure that is true. That may just be a talking point. But, on that first touchdown, you got McCarthy going off his back foot, throws it to the outside, makes a great throw, something that I didn't think he was capable of making, and then you just got to come up and make the tackle, and it's 4th down, and you got to punt, and the guy blows the tackle. And, I just have a hard time being on Knowles on that. But, bottom line is you are what your record says you are. We gave up that many points, which was unfortunate, was really disappointing for Ohio State. But, I think the game could have turned on plays. We've talked ad nauseum this week about the fake punt that never was, some other plays that kind of went that way. But that's football. Michigan beat us. I give Harbaugh all the credit in the world. I thought he coached a great game. He's a really strange dude. But right now, I mean, I guess I asked the question to you guys. Forget all the stuff about mental health and representative of the university and recruiting and everything else like that. But if you had a game right now and you had a coach between Day and Harbaugh, equal talent on a neutral field, who would be your head coach? Who would you pick, Bank? Who would you pick? Would you pick Harbaugh or would you pick Day?
One game.
Well,
that's a tough one. That's a tough one there. I mean, 2 years ago, I would have taken Ryan Day in a walk, but and Harbaugh, it's really strange because they darn near fired him a couple years ago. And then the staff was complete turnover, and he had that great year last year, and you thought, well, that can't happen again. And he lost his D coordinator, got another one in there, On signing day, he was interviewing with the Minnesota Vikings. He doesn't want to be there. And then here they are undefeated. I mean, this is the craziest story in college football. One game today, God, equal talent. I'm probably going to take Harbaugh. And I hate to say that. I mean, because I am a Ryan Day guy. I'm still a Ryan Day guy. But man, that was the last two meetings with Michigan have kind of shaken my confidence. You know, like I say, you throw out the recruiting rankings because Ohio State's always going to out recruit them. But man, to get dog walked 2 years in a row, I mean, just total butt whippings. You know, I don't know, man. It's not good. I mean, I don't think Ryan Day is on the hot seat or anything, but might be a little warm, you know. But yeah, one game. I don't know, man. Kirk, what would you take? That's a tough one there.
That is really, really tough. I mean, given the overall experience, you probably have to lean Harbaugh. I mean, he's taken a team to the Super Bowl. He called a moronic play there, like a fade to Michael Crabtree when they had a Titanic offensive line and Frank Gore and so he's had his air biscuits in terms of and that was a close game, but it's like, my God, you had the best offensive line in football, and you throw a fade to Crab and they lose the game and whatever. So I mean, he's had his air biscuits, but I just think if you look at the overall scope of work, Harbaugh, he's won everywhere. He won at Stanford,
Yes.
won at Michigan. And winning at Stanford is not easy. You got a bunch of nerds. You got to make them tough. You got to run two tight ends and a fullback, and you can't just line up in shotgun spread and just out athlete everybody at Stanford. I mean, you'll get an occasional Richard Sherman or Christian McCaffrey, but you got to win with linemen and toughness, and it's like being at Northwestern. You're not just gonna out scheme teams. You got to take Stanford's kids and go play USC and UCLA and Oregon, and and he did it, and he beat them, which is he had, in terms of coaching jobs and upsets, maybe the biggest one in the history of college football when he took Stanford to USC, and they were 50-point underdogs or whatever, and he beat USC back when USC was USC, Pete Carroll USC, really good USC. I believe that was in 07 because I went to the Senior Bowl and I was with Sam Baker, I was with Fred Davis, I was with all these guys that were in my Senior Bowl class, and they're my teammates. And they said some shit to me about losing to LSU. I'm like, dude, you guys lost to Stanford, and this is before Harbaugh got Stanford rolling. And I was like, so I mean, I hate Jim Harbaugh, but he's got the team golden the last couple of years. So I don't know. It's a tough one. I mean, gun to my head, it's just you look at the overall body of work, and I think that's the big reason why Luke Fickle got the job over Jim Leonhard, is because he had head coaching experience. He took the Cincinnati Bearcats to the college football playoff, which is impossibly hard. You always look at because I always judge a coach, what does he do with what he has, and what does he do when he faces a team with equal talent? Because realistically, in the Big Ten, my German Shepherd can win every single game except for the Michigan game. The Michigan game is one where you actually have to coach them up, and you got them ready to go. They can't blink. They can't choke. When you have a fake punt and Mitch Rossi's butt naked running down the sideline, you can't have someone choke and not snap the ball. You can't have guys not fit their gaps and then give up a 75-yard run. And that's the thing that was amazing, is how many of the guys just choked. I mean, they had a chance to really win it, and they get a couple stops there. It's an 8-point game. I mean, when they do that fake punt, it's a 4-point game. The whole narrative of Ryan Day changes. The whole narrative of that team changes. All of a sudden, he's like the riverboat gambler. He's the badass. He called the fake punt. Maybe he could even, talk it up. He's like, oh yeah, I coached CJ Stroud to wave his arms and say, I want to stay in. I want to stay in. And, because coaches do shit like that. Urban used to always look at the sideline to see what the coaches were doing on punts, to see, if they're being demonstrative stuff. Because that's a lot of times that signals there's a fake. So Ryan might have said, hey, CJ, act like you're mad at me and pissed off and say, so stay off. And then, because then they'll be like, oh, well, they must be punting for sure now. And it's and the long snapper, it's like the ball's glued to his hand because he's so nervous that he's going to miss Mitch Rossi. And then he forgets to give it to Mitch Rossi. And it's just but that's football. I mean, I mean, I'm no stranger to losing. I lost 2 of the biggest games in school history, and it's the margin for error when you play equal talent or teams better than you is so small that you can't screw around. I mean, like, when we lost to LSU my senior year, my last game I ever played, we had 5 personal fouls, drop a touchdown pass. We're on the 1 year line, have a false start, have a field goal blocked. We look like a clown show. And it's like when you do that kind of stuff, when you're playing LSU, who's as good as anybody in the country, they're probably better than we were, and you're in Louisiana, like, you're going to lose. This is part of life. And, like, you got to have the coaching and the mental stuff ready to go, or else that shit can happen when you're playing equal talent. Nevada, as the season goes, it's 2 paths. I'm going to give you a 2-parter. Playoffs, if we make the playoffs, what are your expectations? And then if not, Rose Bowl, I don't even want to talk about that because I don't even want to get that juju going. But, if we go to the Rose Bowl and, half the team opts out, what are your expectations there? So just do the playoffs first, and then if you feel like you get to the bowl to be named later.
Well, look, I think players are resilient, man. I've seen it so many times where, the fans take this stuff way harder than the kids do. And I've been around this a long time, been around the players a long time, and I've just seen it firsthand where, I'll be suicidal and lined up on the ledge and ready to jump, and the players will be off at Taco Bell yucking it up and, having a couple of beers, and they shake this stuff off quickly. So I think regardless whether Ohio State goes to the whoever the players that are left that aren't opting out or whatever are going to be excited about playing the bowl game because it's their chance to play. And whether that be Devin Brown or Kyle McCord or whomever, they're going to be excited because they get a chance to play and they get a chance to show out. And that's Sonny Styles coming out party or any of the young guys or Kai Stokes that we've been talking about all season long that haven't really seen much, I think they'll play. If we get to the playoff, I mean, at that point, you're playing with house money. Nobody really expects anything of you. You're going to be a heavy underdog in the game. And I think Ohio State will show up. So I think either way, we're going to get a good show out of the Buckeyes. 2 very different types of opportunities there between the playoff and the bowl game. Things are changed, man. It's not like the old days with the bowl games. With the idea of opt-outs was kind of a crazy idea even 10 years ago. Nobody would opt out. And now it's just like it's the thing that you do. And I think as a fan, we've got to accept that things are different. College football has changed with NIL. It's changed with the portal. It's changed with opt-outs. It's changed with the involvement of agents already in these players' lives. Things have changed, but I think Ohio State will show up either way and give us a good show, and I'm looking forward to it. And I really think it's going to be the playoff. I think either TCU or USC is going to slip up this weekend, and we're going to get into the playoffs, and then game on.
Bank, your thoughts on that? The playoff part first, and then bowl to be named later. And if it's the bowl to be named later, do assuming CJ opts out, would you rotate the quarterbacks, the 2 young guys, and see how they do, or would you play one, or what would your thought be? But go ahead and start with the playoffs, and then go to the bowl to be named later.
I think they're going to be in the playoffs. I think Utah is going to beat USC. I disagree. I think TCU's in. They've got the toughest strength of schedule, and they're number 1 in strength of record. And in the playoff history, there's only been one team that's finished in the top 4 in strength of record. It doesn't make it. So, and they're number 1. So I think it's Friday night or nothing, but who knows? It's a committee. So anyway, if they get in the playoffs, then you roll the dice and you just hope that, in the next month, you can get your team playing their best. If they go in not playing their best, they're going to get their butts kicked like they did the other day. If they're playing at their best, they can play with anyone. So playoffs, the talk of, I don't want to go to the playoffs because I don't want to see my team get killed again. That is ridiculous. Now, last year it would have been true, but not this year. This year, you got to take your shot. If they don't go to the playoffs, I think the most interesting part of Rose Bowl, or I heard him talk tonight that maybe Penn State Rose Bowl and Ohio State Orange Bowl on the show. But either way, the most interesting part will be the opt-outs. And I think it could be dramatic. Whew. And that's kind of cool because then you get to see guys that you haven't seen all year. Anymore in college football, if you're not in the playoffs, it doesn't matter. Ohio State beating Utah last year meant nothing. They could have lost that game, win the game. Who cares? It means nothing. But if you've got opt-outs and you get a chance to see kids you'd never seen before and kids that are going to be your team next year, I think that's really exciting. So, but I think, you put a gun to my head, I think they're going to be in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's funny because like the Rose Bowl for me, I was like, hell, that's the NIL Bowl because like you get all these young guys out there. You get Marvin and you get Jackson Smith and Jigba, and you get guys that you hadn't seen or heard of. And it's just like, I don't know. Like I'd be like, it's like how these guys like they play really hard in the spring game. Why? Because they want to get a car deal or they want to get one of these DraftKings deal or whatever. There's a million different entities out that are just handing out free cash to these guys, and why not go hard and make a name for yourself? I think that I agree. I think the dumbest take in the world is I don't want to be embarrassed. I just want to stay home. I don't want to play Georgia. I'm like, because like again, and this is coming from the guy that like we got our asses kicked by Florida, and then I was like, when LSU came around, we got to go try to avenge it. I was like, let's go. Like, what would I rather go play in the Rose Bowl against USC and then watch the national championship game on my TV? I'm like, no way. It's like the only way you could ever do anything great is you got to go win it. And again, you might be up against it. You might have to play Georgia in Georgia. If we have to play the Peach Bowl, that's in Atlanta. That's going to be 80-20 Georgia Bulldog fans. And then, like we play Louisiana in Louisiana. Like, what do you think that crowd was? 80-20. There's purple and I mean, it was a car ride for them. It was a flight for our people. So, but you got to go into the Lions Den. And sometimes it's fun to ratchet up the challenge a little bit and go test yourself, test your program. And, what's the worst that happens? You lose. Who cares? You can lose the Rose Bowl, you can lose the Orange Bowl. I don't care. I mean, God, that's the thing about football is like, the best. I mean, Bill Belichick's lost like how many Super Bowls? 3 or 4. I mean, that's part of the gig. If you're good, you can lose to the Philadelphia Eagles in the Super Bowl. It's just part of life. Bank, I'm going to stick with you because our guy is now a cheesehead. Luke Fickle, head coach. Talked to some of his guys. He's taking Brady Collins, his strength coach. He's taking he's having those hard conversations at Cincinnati with. He had 10 guys on staff, and I don't know. He's not taking all 10. I'm sure of that because I think he's going to try to do the Urban Meyer move and keep Jim Leonard and win the crowd and keep one of the Buckeye Badgers on staff. And I'm sure he'll try to keep maybe 2 guys on that current staff, but the strength coach is wiped out, obviously. And but your thoughts on how Luke will do at Wisconsin? I think it's as perfect of a fit as there ever has been, just because tough program. Big nasty O-line, tough defense, physical as hell. You're the state program. You don't have to compete with Michigan. But how do you think Luke Fickle is going to do as the head coach of the Wisconsin Badgers? That still is weird to say.
Yeah, it is. I think he's going to do really well. I think he's grown so much as a coach, in the past 4 or 5 years that I think he's ready for this. I think the West is there to be won. I mean, there's no reason why Wisconsin shouldn't win the West or contend for the West every year. I think it's a great fit, for what they want to do. You know what I mean? They want to run the ball. They want to be physical. But see, Luke at Cincinnati, excuse me, he was more than that at UC. That offense really evolved, in the past couple of years. So I think it's a great fit. He's going to be tough, physical, which is what they want. He's going to run the ball, which is what they want, but the passing game will be better. And I don't think he's going to be tied to Graham Mertz, which they've been tied to him now for 3 years. And it's like, what are you doing? He's not any good. But I guess they must not have had anyone else to come in and play. Well, that's not going to work that way with Luke. Interesting will be, some of the UC kids go up there? In this era, man, free agency, that'll be interesting because they've got some dudes that can play at the Big Ten level. So that's what's going to be interesting to me. Do any of those UC kids follow him up there? And how does Luke recruit Ohio going forward?
Yeah, I think that's a huge question. Like, if I'm Landon Fickle, if I'm his son who's on scholarship there, I'd have been on the private jet straight to Madison. I'd be like, hey, sorry, Dad, I'm coming to Wisconsin, and I can walk on because you're making like $8 million a year, so you could pay the staff prorated tuition, like same as Kevin Wilson does with Toby Wilson. Nevada, would love your thoughts on Luke. I mean, obviously, he got thrust into maybe the worst situation ever in 2011 when Trust got the bullet, and he had to the thing about Luke is like he didn't get to build a staff. He had to retain a bunch of guys that he obviously wouldn't have retained because when he went to Cincinnati, he didn't call any of those guys. You know, so I mean, what is Luke's ceiling? How dangerous can Wisconsin be? I'd love your thoughts on Luke Fickle to Wisconsin.
Well, I think I'll bring it back to Ryan Day at Ohio State just because we are talking about Ohio State and the Buckeyes. And, when Luke was a head coach for the first time in 2011, he wasn't very good. And, he wasn't ready for the job. He went to Cincinnati, and frankly, in Cincinnati, his first few years, he was okay. But, he's grown over time. Being a head coach takes time. And that's what I've always found so funny about the whole Ryan Day situation was we hired a head coach at Ohio State that had never been a head coach before. And I don't know, has that ever happened before in Ohio State history that we hired a coach that had zero head coaching experience at any level? I mean, I don't remember it. So what I'd say about Luke is I think Luke's ready for that Wisconsin job, as you guys rightly pointed out. It's a great fit for his personality, the way he likes to play. I think he's absolutely grown as an administrator, as a coach, as a representative of the university. So I think he'll do a very credible job. I think Wisconsin's a tough job because you've got virtually no recruiting base, and you've got to make do with just with what you have. And they've done an exceptional job of knowing their identity, playing to that identity, and I think Luke's perfectly fit with that. But would I said the same thing about Luke in 2011? No. I mean, he wasn't ready, but sometimes it takes 10, 11, 12 years on the job to kind of figure this thing out because being a head coach at the major college football level is not easy. Urban Meyer made it look easy. Jim Tressel made it look easy, but let me assure you, it's not easy. And I think we're figuring that out right now with Ryan Day is that, it's not quite as easy as we might have thought, even 6 months ago, 12 months ago, 2 months ago. So, but I think Luke's up for the challenge.
Yeah, it's interesting because if there's a human being on this earth that's a bigger expert that's in the media on the transition to Luke, it's me. From Tressel. I mean, I'll never forget it was Memorial Day. We had Monday off, Sunday night, we go see The Hangover 2. I get a text from Michael Brewster. He says, dude, why do we have an all players meeting at 7 a.m. tomorrow when we're supposed to be off until 4? Most of the kids were at home at barbecues. They're home for the weekend. And I was like, oh shit. And then I called Jim Bowman and I said, dude, what the fuck what is going on right now? Because I said the F word to Jim, because I was like, why do we have a meeting all of a sudden? And we do the Sports Illustrated articles coming out, big, I mean, there was all these rumors. Like we were in the middle of the hurricane, and he's like, and Bulls had no idea. So Brewster knew before our own offensive coordinator and our staff knew, which was crazy. Greg Gillum, for some reason, set the players a thing before everybody else did. And then Bulls called me like an hour later, and he said, "Yeah, we have a staff meeting at like 6:30. Like it was like a half hour before the player meeting." And I was like, "Oh God, this isn't good. We're not supposed to be into the building until 2:00. Because we're all like barbecuing and hanging out with the family because it was day off." And you get in there, they whack Tress. Tress resigned in front of like 4 players, like Muhort, Brewster, Sabino. I mean, there were like 5 guys in the building. Like everyone else was at home. They found out on Sports Center. And then, we handed it to Luke, and, Luke was young. I mean, he was kind of he was a good face. He's a tough guy. I figured he could handle it. And, I'm not convinced that, I mean, it would be interesting to see what Saban or Urban could have done with that team. But like, our best players, like DeVere Posey suspended 8 games, Mike Adams 5 games, like, 2 good draft picks, mid-round draft picks. Boom Heron suspended. We're starting Joe Bowserman or Braxton Miller as a true freshman at quarterback. And I love Braxton, but he's not a grinder. He's not a hard worker. He's not a guy that's going to stay and learn the playbook. So half the time, we're putting plays in, he's just winging it. So, I mean, and by some miracle of God, the funniest thing about this that comes full circle is by some miracle of God, we beat Wisconsin when they had Russell Wilson at home. And I was like, and it was on a play where we threw it to Devin Smith. Braxton ran the wrong play. Devin didn't run the right route. He had no idea what he was doing. And they connected for like a 50-yard touchdown, and the stadium about broke because it was so loud. But, I think the biggest thing that has helped accelerate Luke's career is he got retained by Urban Meyer, and he got taught how to be a real head football coach and kind of how to be a real MFer. Because, it's not all about making friends and being buddy and going to every event that they ask you to come to for fundraising and hospital openings and all that. It's like, you gotta be ruthless to be a head coach, because Luke just found that out. He just is, he's leaving the guys behind at Cincinnati. He's not bringing everybody from Cincinnati. He has guys that he looked in the eye that was on his staff last week, and I bet 4 or 5 of those guys are going to stay in Cincinnati and hope they're retained, or they're going to be lame ducks, and they might be let go by whoever the new guy is in Cincinnati. Speaking of that, a guy that's looked like he's going to interview for this job, we got some great sources that say Brian Hartline might be interviewing for Cincinnati, Nevada. Brian Hartline as the head coach of the Cincinnati Bearcats. Could you see it? Are you surprised? I know he's a hot name, big recruiter. What are your thoughts on Brian potentially being the next guy to follow up Luke Fickle at Cincinnati?
Again, I think that would fall into the category of high risk, high reward type of moves by Cincinnati. I'm not convinced that's the direction that they're going to go when there's other guys that have not only head coaching experience, but Hartline hasn't even been a coordinator yet. So I think Brian would be a very risky hire on a number of different fronts. And if Cincinnati did that, that would be I tip my cap to them for rolling the dice and taking their chances. But that's not the move that I would take when they're moving in. They got their new $100 million facility, and they're moving to the Big 12, and they're doing their thing. And I'm not saying that as an Ohio State fan. I'm just saying as an observer of the situation, that wouldn't be the move that I'd make. But maybe they will take a chance like that on another Ohio State guy. He certainly can recruit. He certainly knows the state of Ohio. He certainly knows the recruits nationally. But that would be a head scratcher to me.
Yeah, it's real interesting. Bank, you've known Brian Hartline longer than probably anybody outside of his parents. You've known him since he was a little kid, and you were a guy writing articles that get Ohio State to notice him when Ohio State, frankly, didn't really want him. He had to come to camp about 50 times to get an offer. They finally took him. He's the guy that I'm sure that you wrote huge glowing things about, because you're the 3-star special from Stark County. But I'm just tongue in cheek kind of, but not really, because he's not Marvin. He's not even Marvin Harris. He's not one of these 5-star monsters, Ted Ginn type ish. But what would your thoughts be on Brian Hartline potentially getting the Cincinnati Bearcat gig?
Yeah, well, as of early this week, we've got a pretty good source on that. There had been no contact. So, and that doesn't mean that there hasn't been contact, in the last 12 hours or so, but there was not early contact. So we'll see. Now, Brian would take it in a minute if it's offered. If he does get a call and the job's offered, he's going to take it without question. I kind of agree there. I think it's soon for that. The thing is the Cincinnati job is a great job.
Sure.
Going into the Big 12 with the Ohio footprint that you can recruit, it's a great job. Now, I'll tell you the name that makes all the sense in the world to me, and I kind of want to see what Kirk thinks. I think Matt Campbell is perfect for that job.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it would get him closer to home. And Cincinnati in the Big 12 is a way better job than Iowa State in the Big 12 in terms of who you can recruit, what your school's going to, give you in terms of resources. So I think Matt Campbell makes all the sense in the world. Now, I don't know that he would leave Iowa State. He loves it there. They've given him the world and promised him the moon, and they're delivering. So, but I'm telling you, I just, there's something about Matt Campbell coming to Cincinnati that really intrigues me. And I don't know, what do you think about that, Kirk?
I think it would be fascinating, because he's been a guy that's been kind of the the runner up at the ball. You know, I know Wisconsin contacted him. I know USC contacted him last year. Like, so these are like the A+ jobs. And the Detroit Lions contacted him before they hired Dan Campbell. And the hard part is like when you're at one of these middle tier schools and you have one of those Cinderella runs and you win the Cotton Bowl and you beat Oregon, you know, you get a big old chunk of goodwill. But then when you throw a couple clunkers in a row, then that goodwill, you know, it kind of erodes and erodes and erodes. And so it's like, you know, can you ever win big at Iowa State? I mean, God, last year he had an incredible. He had Breece Hall, who would have been the rookie of the year in the NFL this year before he destroyed his knee. He was leading rookie rusher. He had some studs, and they didn't have a good year. And you've got, you know, like I feel like Luke Fickle is the same way. Like he gets it to the playoffs. You know, they build the program over 5-6 years. He gives them 5-6 good years, gets them to the playoffs, gets them to, you know, higher stratosphere they've ever been. And I don't know. It's like I think at some point, like when Wisconsin, when you get that perfect job, you know, it like for Matt, it's kind of more. It's not a fully horizontal job. I feel like Cincinnati is better year over year than Iowa State, just because you have a better recruiting area with Ohio, and plus you're closer to the South, and plus I don't know, just traditionally like Cincinnati, they're a team that rises up a lot more frequently than Iowa State does. You know, I mean when they had Kelsey and those guys and they played the Florida Gators in the Sugar Bowl, that was a good year. I mean, they've had some good years at Cincinnati. It's like Iowa State's had, like, you know, with Campbell being there, they've had probably the greatest run in their school's history, and they just got waxed the other day. I don't know. I think Matt is a guy that, you know, he's got to figure out if he wants to stay in Ames, Iowa, or if he wants to come to Cincinnati, because, you know, I don't know if it's getting sterile there, or if it's getting a little just whatever, but, you know, at some point, you know, he's going to have to take the factory job like you always talk about. He's going to want to throw his hat in the ring and have infinite resources, infinite money at an A&M or a Texas. And honestly, like, I think the biggest reason Luke Fickle took the Wisconsin job is because he wants to jockey for position for the Ohio State job, you know, because, you know, next year is going to be a big year for Ryan Day. And I mean, you know, if you're Luke Fickle and you win the Big Ten West and you go 11-1 or 11-2 or whatever you end up at, and, you know, they're looking around and they're saying, oh, who are the guys that could move in for Ryan? It's like, well, hell, Luke just dominated the West at the Big Ten. He's already been recruiting the Big Ten. He's recruiting against Ohio State. You know, he's in Ohio. You know, I mean, there's going to be Ohio high school coaches that'll tell their kids, man, if you can go play for Luke Fickle, do it. Because Luke is one of the most virtuous, great human beings ever. Like, he's been the same guy since I've known him in 2001 when he was like a nobody. He was a, you know, nobody special teams guy, you know, and he's the same guy then that he is now. And like, and I've always appreciated that about him and Amy and them. And like, you know, so I feel like that was a move to jockey to take the emotional lead, because everybody wants Fickle, and, you know, Vrabel's not going to ever come to college. There's no way. But, you know, Luke, if he does well at Wisconsin, he'd seem like the natural guy to succeed Ryan Day at some point. I'm not like saying Ryan's, you know, out if he has another year or whatever. He's gave him like an 8-year extension. So, but I just think that, you know, if he can go prove that he can do it at Wisconsin, and the thing I know from playing in this conference and coaching in this conference is when Wisconsin is good, they are absolutely miserable to go against. And I think that's something that Luke knows, because he had to coach against that. He had to coach against that big, massive, kick-ass offensive line that they always had. And they always have a really good running back. And they always have a quarterback that, you know, generally doesn't turn it over. And it hasn't been the case the last couple of years. But, you know, they have usually one or two good receivers. They usually have a great tight end. And then their defense is always tough, you know. And I think that all appealed to Luke. And plus, the biggest thing that people never talk about when they take a job as a head coach is you're also married to that athletic director. And Chris McIntosh is a former first-round draft pick, offensive tackle. He was a state champion wrestler. You know, he's a Wisconsin Badger. He's tough as nails. So it's like, you know, if there's ever like an AD on this earth that Luke would love and resonate with, it's Chris McIntosh, because that guy's like, he's basically Luke, except he played offensive tackle instead of defensive tackle. And he was actually a better college player, because he was a first-round pick in the NFL draft. So, you know, I think there's a lot of similarities there, but it's going to be really, really, really interesting. Nevada, any surprises? I love it. Any other things you see coming up? One thing I want to get back to you, I think we lost Bank for a second. Uh, recruiting wise, this was an interesting weekend because we got Caleb Downs up here. We had the South Florida Express kids. Malachi Tony got his offer. Love that kid. He's a freshman. What, in your experience, is the general feeling when you see you had this big recruiting weekend and then we lose? Does that affect these recruits that much? I tend to think no, but you've been around doing this longer than I have. What's your general thought on that?
Well, I mean, look, it doesn't help. I mean, I don't think there's any way that it's a net positive. Like, wow, it's great that we lost, and boy, that'll really help recruiting, because I mean, recruiting, generally something that takes a while in terms of comfort, relationships, kind of a general feeling you have about that school. And would it have been a better feeling if people were sitting there and watching a great win and have everybody kind of rallying to the cause and everything? Yeah, of course. But in this situation, it didn't happen. So look, if you lose a recruit because of what happened on the game on Saturday, then it probably wasn't the right fit for Ohio State, and that's kind of my philosophical way of looking at it. I think that there's so many other things that are at play in terms of their relationship with their position coach, how they feel about the head coach, how does the depth chart look, and all these players want to play. They want to play and they want to get paid, and so certainly nothing that happened on Saturday would indicate to any player that, boy, Ohio State's so loaded that I'm not going to have a chance to see the field. And that's so I think it'll have a negligible effect, if any, and we'll see how that plays out over the next few weeks. But I don't expect to be much of anything.
Yeah, I played in the greatest game in the history of Ohio Stadium. It's been around for 100 and however many years, 103 of the shoe. Yeah, the 1-2 Michigan game will probably never be topped. It got bumped to 3:30. It was like a movie. It was crazy. Countdown timer on ABC for a week straight, counting down to kickoff, which I've never seen before. And we had a humongous recruiting weekend that week. And I don't think we got any of those guys. Joseph Barksdale. We had like some guys that were the A1A 5-star guys, and none of them came to Ohio State. So, I don't think that if you win or lose, it really matters because if you win, great. Everyone's excited and happy. If you lose, I think a lot of these kids are like, screw these bums. I'm going to be better than those guys anyways. That means if you lose, like in some twisted way, these recruits might actually like it more because I'm like, oh, these guys are bums. These guys stink. So, I'm just going to take their spot, because they just lost to Michigan and I'm not going to lose to Michigan. It's like I had recruits like after, we lost to LSU, there were recruits who were saying, well, I'm not going to lose a national championship game. And I was like, well, you got to make it first. None of them ever made a national championship game, so they couldn't actually lose it. But, that's just kind of how some of these kids are. That's kind of their edge. And again, that's perfectly fine. A lot of these kids, they want to, say, hey, I won't get beat. I won't lose. And, and if they can pull that off, fantastic. That's great for me because then that means Ohio State's really good if they end up coming here. So, as you project
Let's go to the questions, man. I want to see the questions.
Yeah.
We've got to have some questions.
We have thousands of questions.
That's what I'm saying. Let's go to the questions.
All right, let's go to the questions. Let me see. Let me find some questions. There's a lot of comments too. Appreciate the comments and the questions. Keep them coming, guys. Let me see. Trying to find. All right.
Try to find one with no profanity in it or no one.
Oh God, that's a hard one after this Michigan loss, man. I mean, there's a lot of
Nevadabuck,
commentary on Jim Knowles,
Nevadabuck, you suck. Exactly, none of those. I don't. We're done with those comments.
Those are my favorite ones. Did Bank? I think Bank might have fallen asleep. He'd probably be back. Oh, yeah. Someone asked why did Jack Sawyer never play? I don't know. I don't know if we can answer it. Nevada, do you want to take that one? Why did Jack Sawyer never play?
I mean, he played a handful of snaps, but boy, I mean, on that first touchdown, he came within a razor's edge of making that tackle and saving that play down the sideline. Didn't make that play. I'm sure that they're certainly not faulting him for that, but he didn't get a lot of action. And I found the rotations by Ohio State they were odd all year, and they were odd on Saturday. So I'll just say it was odd, and I'm not quite sure. I'm going to dig a little bit more to try to find out a little bit more about that. But no, that was a head scratcher to me.
Bradley Forrester, great question. Nevada, will the rivalry lose some luster when the playoffs move to 12 teams?
I mean, I think by definition, that game on Saturday then is just for seeding, and that's a different kind of pressure. Right now, we're talking about, is Ohio State going to make the playoff or whatever? I mean, going to that game in a 12-team playoff, you're in. So I think there's no question it loses luster. How much luster is really an open question. I think it's going to be significant. I think it's going to take a lot of the tension out of the season. But I'm looking at that strictly through the prism as an Ohio State fan. I mean, you have to remember, for all the other fans of college football that aren't lucky enough to have a team like Ohio State that's pretty much got a ticket punched into the top 12 every year, it's going to open up a lot of other drama for a lot of other teams, and a lot of other people are going to be enhanced interest in the college football season. But as an Ohio State fan, I think it's a net loss, and for the game, I definitely think it's a net loss.
Yeah, this is God, there's a lot of good comments. I'm trying to find some more questions. They were 41 point when Harbaugh beat USC, they're 41-point underdogs playing Southern Cal. And I was like, I remember when that happened, I was like, that'd be like Akron beating Ohio State. Like, I mean, it was like that. I mean, that was unthinkable. Cause like when USC was cooking, and they still had, they weren't at their peak when they had Reggie and Matt Leinart, but it was a year off, or 2 years off, and they still had John David Booty and Sam Baker and Cedric Ellis. And I mean, their defense had Mal Luga and Cushing and all those guys. And Clay Matthews Jr., Taylor Mays. I mean, it was a brand name team. So that was to lose a bunch of nerds is pretty unbelievable. Oh, this is a great one. Did you live through the Cooper years? Yes, I lived through the Cooper years. The Cooper years are what formed and made me into the angry, grumpy Ohio State player that I was, because I hated losing to Michigan. I was just as big of a fan as I was a player. And it's like, when you lose every year to Michigan and you see your heroes get killed, it's like, it's tough.
But Kirk, on that thing, let's face it though. I mean, if we're all honest with ourselves, the worst thing about losing to Michigan is the obnoxious Michigan fans.
Oh,
The
of course.
obnoxious,
Of
the
course.
Michigan fans the closet fans that we see on social media on the comment section, or that dust off the Michigan jerseys from underneath their closets that they've kind of hidden for 15 years, and now you see them sprouting everywhere like weeds in your lawn. I mean, the Michigan fans are the worst, and so that's the thing that you just have to sit through another year of listening to the Michigan fans talk is just it's a special kind of hell. So I think we're certainly paying for the past 2 decades of dominance, because having to listen to those weasels just crow about winning the game it's painful, man. It'd be like sitting there with like somebody running their fingers across a chalkboard for like a year. That's what it's like with the Michigan fans. So it's horrible.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's when you're growing up in Ohio, and this is mid '90s. This is right after the Fab Five. A lot of Chris Webber jerseys, a lot of Michigan basketball shorts, a lot of Michigan shirts. Michigan was a really cool brand in the '90s. That was like the rappers rocked Michigan because, again, it was the bad boy look. It was the whole black socks and all that. And so, people in my middle school, people everywhere on the malls, like they love wearing the Michigan stuff. And like, I hated it because I'm like, you guys are such posers because you guys live in Ohio and you wear Michigan stuff because Michigan's good. So it's like Michigan beats Ohio State every year. Michigan's good. But, like when I was lucky enough to actually have a chance to actually do something about it, we did. Thank God we had Troy Smith, because Troy Smith was like the ultimate alpha's alpha. He was the killer's killer. And, we beat him, 4 times in a row. The last time wasn't with Troy, but you take a lot of pride in that because it switches the course of it, and all that shit disappears. All the Wolverine shirts and all the jackets and all the starter coats and all that bullshit, it all disappears, which I love because it just made me feel good. It was like exterminating like rodents. You get rid of them. Like you don't have these rodents that are running around your house. Like, I mean, it would be like if the rodents could just walk around your house unimpeded because you weren't allowed to kill them. So it's such a good, gratifying feeling. I don't know. And now they're back, and they're loud, they're boisterous, they're douchebags, they're dildos, they're like every bad thing you could ever think of, and that's just their mentality. That's why people hate them so much, because they are pompous, obnoxious, whine and cheese people. And again, but guess what? They just kicked our ass. So what are we gonna do about it? Like, are we gonna talk all this tough talk, or are we actually gonna be tough at some point? So that's the interesting thing with that. Uh, oh, here's a good one. Nevada. Which position do we most need to farm in the transfer portal? It's a great question. Cornerback is mine, but I'll let you take yours.
Yeah, no, I mean, corners obviously, that's the obvious answer, but I'd be looking for a big old defensive lineman. Frankly, I'd be if you could go out and find a Remington Award winner on on the offensive line, I'd go grab that as well. I mean, next year's offensive line, we're going to be. I mean, I think a lot of those guys are leaving. And you're going to be breaking in a brand new offensive line. You're breaking in a brand new quarterback. Um, I mean, we got some holes. We got some holes for sure. But I'd go cornerback, uh, offensive line, and defensive line tied for second. But yeah, we definitely have some needs, and this is where Pantoni's got to earn his money. I mean, Pantoni's got to go out and do it. I mean, we haven't been particularly prodigious in terms of our success in the transfer portal. You look at other teams that are adding 10, 12, 14, 15, 16 key guys, going out and getting Jordan Addison from Pittsburgh or something like that. I mean, yeah, we got Fields from Georgia, and we got Jonah Jackson, and I'm sure I'm missing somebody else. But I mean, who else has been the big transfers? Like the kicker from USC, or I guess Ruggles. But I mean, it's not like we've been, you know, hitting the lottery on the transfer portal. And we're Ohio State. We should be hitting the lottery on the transfer portal. I mean, there are so many guys. I just see guys that we play against this year where we're like, man, boy, that guy could help us. Boy, that guy could help us. Well, let's go get some of those guys. Let's
Yeah.
quit talking about. Let's go get some of those guys. I mean, it's new. This is college football in the year 2022, and my feelings on this have completely changed as the game has changed. I used to think that, hey, that really is going to upset your chemistry, but boy, it's instant free agency for every player in college football right now. So every year you've got to go out there. The idea that we're playing pat hands when everybody else is throwing their cards in and drawing new ones, we're disadvantaging ourselves. So let's go out and let's do our job, and let's go out and get some key players and get some help, because 2, 3, 4 guys, that could make the difference between winning and losing. And Michigan went out and did it last year. They went out and they got that center who anchored that offensive line. He was the guy that was throwing Teron Vincent around like a small child on Saturday. And look, those are some of the moves we got to go make.
Yeah, I mean that kid probably is going to win the Remington. I mean, he was outstanding, and he's first team All Big Ten. I mean, the kid showed up for a year, did his thing. He's going to get drafted high. Big tough kid. We need one of those. I mean, there's a good shot we're going to lose Luke Whippler. I think we're going to lose. I mean, both tackles are obviously gone. Luke Whippler is probably gone. So I mean, you got 3 spots. You're gonna have Donnie back. You're gonna have Josh Fryer, Enoch. Those guys have all had some starting experience. Obviously, Donnie started all year. But you're breaking in a lot of new guys. I mean, from the full-time starters, the only guy back's Donnie Jackson. So it's gonna be real interesting to see kind of how that all breaks. Obviously in the playoff, it went Georgia 1, Michigan 2, TCU 3, USC 4, Ohio State 5. Nevada, are you surprised by any of that at all?
No, I mean, it had to be that way. I mean, you have the
Yeah.
3 undefeated teams,
Yep.
yeah, and then you have the 1 loss teams. And I mean, I think it was exactly the way that I thought it would go. I completely disagree with Bank about TCU getting in over Ohio State if they lose to Kansas State. That makes absolutely no sense to me. This thing about strength of record, I've seen 19 different calculations about strength of schedule, strength of record, and they all have different kind of calculations in terms of what that exactly means. But the reality is, show me your wins and show me your losses. Who would their loss be to? Kansas State. Who's ours to? Number 2, Michigan. Who's your best win? Kansas State, number 13. And then Texas, number 21. Who's your best win? Ohio State. Number 8, Penn State. Number 19, Notre Dame. I mean, and you're Ohio State versus TCU from an economic standpoint. Not that economics drive these types of discussions, but you always follow the money. I mean, Ohio State Michigan game drew 17 million viewers on Saturday. An Ohio State Georgia game would be unbelievable business versus a TCU Georgia game. And look, at the end of the day, that matters. So I think Ohio State's in with either a TCU loss or a USC loss, and I think the standings, what they had them come out today, it was the only way they really could have ranked the teams that would make any sense.
Yeah, and we got a question from King. Yes, you can super chat. We appreciate it. If you guys have a question you really don't answered, a super chat essentially, it's a donation to the channel. Appreciate you guys as always. You got something crazy you want answered, throw it on a super chat. Holler at your boy. Yeah, I agree. I think that the absolute just TV, ABC get bang for your buck dream is, TCU loses, and then all of a sudden you got Georgia, Michigan versus SC, Georgia versus Ohio State. So you're either gonna have Georgia versus one of the traditional powers in Michigan or SC, or in the greatest dream ever would be if Ohio State could upset Georgia, Michigan, USC, and you have the game part 2 for the national title. Like, I mean, talk about a ratings bonanza. That would be it. But we could dare to dream. Again, I've seen crazier stuff happen. It is college football. Nevada, good question. Over under on 10 transfer portal entries for the Ohio State Buckeyes this offseason. I think it's easily over. Always.
Yeah, over. Yeah, I think but I think that's just the reality just going forward. That's not a indication of Ryan Day. That's not an indication of winning, losing, drawing, culture problems, no culture problems. They like the Woody Hayes. They don't like the barbershop, whatever, any of that stuff. That's just the new reality of every year. You're going to lose 10, 12, 13, 14, 15 guys to the portal. I think it's just going to happen. Maybe I'm going to be wrong. Maybe it'll go into that, but I'm fully expecting that you're going to be turning over a significant portion of your roster every single season from here on out.
Yeah, and for me, I think that's it's going to be critical because I think every team's going to do it. Every team's going to lose 15 to 20 guys that are upset, bottom of the roster guys, homesick guys, guys that didn't play, guys that thought they're going to play, guys that feel like they got screwed. It's just so funny, the dynamics of a college football team, because like, before, if a kid got beat out, and he was maybe, a redshirt sophomore and a freshman beat him out, he's kind of stuck. He has to go back and try to beat him out the next spring. Now, those guys are gone. I mean, that's kind of like what happened last year when, we lost Ryan Jacoby to Pitt and we lost Max Rado at Colorado. I mean, those are our 2 backup tackles. They both took off because, they decided to do the move of putting DeWan at right tackle, moving Nick Petit to left tackle, bumping Thayer into left guard, so, and then they looked at the depth chart next year. And again, if you're around Jacoby, Max Ray, they made the right move. It wasn't like what, Bobby Buckeye would like or an Ohio State fan would like, but, you look at last year, they're not going to beat out Nick Petit Fair or DeWan. And then this year, you shift Paris to left tackle and DeWan, and they're not going to beat those guys out either. So it's like, if you're a young guy, every kid that goes to 1A football and gets a scholarship, he has one dream: to go to the NFL. That's it. If you don't play, you can't go to the NFL. And that's what these kids all realize. And that's why these kids all, they're all about, trying to develop themselves. And again, you don't have to go to Michigan or Ohio State or Alabama to be a high draft pick in the NFL as an offensive lineman. All you can do is have good film, maybe go to an all-star game, have a good combine. And I mean, Eric Fisher was the number 1 pick of the draft, played at Central Michigan. So, as long as you have film, you have a shot. And it's really set for any position. Court, where'd Jerry Rice go? Like Missouri Valley State or something crazy like that. Walter Payton went to Jackson State. Some of the greatest players ever that went to some real dinky schools, and it doesn't matter because nowadays they can find you and they can watch your film easier than ever because there's a giant repository of every digital copy of film that's out there that every NFL team has access to. So if you're good, they're going to watch you and they're going to find you, and then they're going to come see you if your film kind of backs up what people think. Let me get some more of these. Let me see. Any chance we could get DJ Uiagalelei and his brother with his brother? Now that's a wild one. I don't think so. Nevada, your thoughts on that one?
Now, I mean, we can do better than that. I mean, not better than his brother, but we don't want DJ. But
Yeah.
I think we've got a real shot at Mateo, and again, I think that one's going to be a jump ball between us and USC when it ultimately comes down to it. And I think it's anybody's guess. I think the fact that DJ struggled so much, Big Dave, his dad's really going to be looking at who's going to get a chance to develop me, who's going to chance to get me to the NFL, because DJ frankly hasn't developed the way that they thought he was going to. So I think with Mateo, I think Ohio State's got a puncher's chance at that one, and it's probably a coin flip right now.
Yeah, I totally agree on that. Caleb Downs, of course, he's the big one. Your thoughts on Caleb Downs after the weekend? Obviously, he was here, which was big. Don't think the NIL stuff went great, from what I've heard. I have not a ton of optimism on Caleb Downs. I'd love to be wrong on that. I'd love your thoughts on that, Nevada.
Yeah, no, I think he came in to do business. I mean, again, this is
Yeah.
the new reality of college football. It was a business trip. He came in. That's why when I heard the thing was like, Caleb was crying and he was FaceTiming the other recruits and he said he wanted to go home and he wasn't going to be there. It was like I just knew that was just a fake story. Just like somebody just made that up, but they got the internet. But no, he attended it. He had his NIL meetings. He listened to the offer. I'm not sure if it was enough to stir him. We'll know more here probably in the next 3 or 4 days. So it's like people just have to accept the fact that this is the way it is. I mean, like when you've got a kid like Mark Fletcher, or we'll just use him as kind of an example where we lose a kid. That is a kid that's offered $3 million from Florida to play there. $750,000 upon signing, $750,000 a year. I don't care who you are. Who can turn that down? Who can
Yeah.
say no? I mean, especially for somebody. I don't care if you have means. That's a ton of money. If you're
Yeah.
not for me, if you're maybe lower middle class or lower class, that's that's an insane amount of money. So it's like when we're talking about these recruiting games now, we just have to remember that there's this whole other undercurrent of NIL that's playing out right now that totally changes things. It's not root for the Buckeyes and wow, play for the jersey, and I get to walk in the footsteps of Orlando Pace, or it's who's going to pay me the most money, and that's what it is. It's sad. I don't think it's great for college football. I don't think it's great as a fan. It lessens my fandom, but it is where we are. And so, I think we've just got to accept that that's the reality of it right now. And with Caleb Downs, it's going to be a financial decision. I don't know if we did enough to move the dial. I'm not sure. I know that some people I think Ohio State's gotten better at the NIL game, but we are not as aggressive as some of the other teams. Some of these other teams are going all in on NIL. Florida, Miami, Texas A&M. I mean, they are going as USC. They're going. Look, we're just going to throw as much money at these kids as we possibly can before the NCAA or somebody else comes in and shuts this thing down. Before the IRS comes in and investigates, or the Department of Justice comes in and checks it out. But right now, they're just going crazy, and Ohio State's not going crazy. Will we lose some kids? Probably. And so, again, long answer to short question. Caleb Downs, we'll know more in the next 3 days if we were able to move the dial on him.
This is great, Treasy. I feel bad for CJ Stroud. The fan base turned their back on him. Well, if there's one thing I do know, I played with Troy Smith, greatest quarterback in Ohio State history, won the Heisman, in my opinion. We lose the Florida game. That's all people bring up. It's insane. You get, oh, thank you, King. Hey, we got a super chat. Appreciate you, big dog. Coming to Jesus moment with Ryan Day. I'm gonna put this on the thing. I gotta switch over to our little mechanism to do that. Appreciate the super chat as always. But like like a Terrell Pryor, like how he got treated in it all. So come to Jesus,
Was
my
that
friend.
was that a question, a comment, or just you're just doing musings right now?
I'm just so amusing since I'm getting the super chat up because appreciate you, King. So coming to Jesus, my friend, is not the guy on top of him changing the Ohio State country from punch you in the mouth to patty cake. But who the hell has out coached over the last few years? Mike Loxley smoked him, shake man. So that's not a question. I think that's just a comment, but it's on our screen because it's super chat. Appreciate you, big dog. No, I don't know. It's gonna be an interesting time. I think that the portal is gonna be fascinating this year because some of these teams, it'll be interesting to see if there's a percentage of roster change for some of these teams because I think the Miami Hurricanes they could lose 50 guys off their roster, because Cristobal is not playing and they're also terrible. So it's just one of those.
Let's talk about CJ Stroud. I want to talk about CJ Stroud while we're here and we're talking about that.
Sure.
Yeah, you played with Troy Smith, who we all agree was the Wolverine killer of all time, and a guy that you say he's remembered for the Florida game. Not in my mind, man. My mind, I've got so many indelible memories of him just roasting Michigan in 04 and 05 and 06 with just some great things. That the disappointment in the national championship game was just a kind of bump in the road for me. But like CJ just he doesn't exude that toughness. He doesn't exude that I'm going to run right through you. I'm going to do whatever it has to do I'm going to we always talked about Urban Meyer would trip his grandma on a game of check or whatever the analogy is. But you don't ever get that impression from CJ. Maybe that's an unfair thing. Maybe these are these little things that that are unfair. But do you ever get that impression from CJ that he's just a killer and is going to do whatever he has to do, sell his soul to win that game, to get that first down, to beat the Wolverines? Do you get that impression from him? Because I don't. And that's not a knock on him. That's just an observation as a fan, as a person who's been doing this for a long time. I've just never gotten the impression from him that that it's on.
No, I don't think he's tough at all, and I think that's why he lost to Michigan twice. I think that's why. He didn't win the Big Ten East. People were like, "What's his legacy?" I was like, "I don't know." A lot of yards. It's like a lot of yards against Rutgers and Indiana and Utah, and they weren't. They're playing a running back at corner and whatever. I think nice kid, great family. Not, what's his legacy? You lost to Michigan twice. You're the guy that broke the streak at home. 20 years, you never lost there. And when you're the quarterback, you're the guy. You're the guy everybody looks at. The two guys everybody looks at is the quarterback and the head coach. Period. Like when I was a captain as an offensive tackle, I could pancake my guy every single play for 70 plays. And if everybody else doesn't do their job, we're not going to win. The quarterback is different because the quarterback is OP. He's overpowered. So, and with Troy, 04, let's go through Troy's wins. 04, we stunk. We were terrible. We were 6-4 going into the game. We ended up 8-4. We ended up beating Michigan, ended up beating Oklahoma State, but we stunk. And the week before we lost to Purdue, we were a mess. And we were huge dogs at home. Michigan asked if they could chill their roses for the Rose Bowl if they could get one of those big giant Gatorade fridges for their roses after the game, because that was how confident they were. So they asked us for that. It was like one of those. And I'm not sure they did that this time, but and Troy just said, screw it. I'm not going to lose today. I'm going to run. I'm going to throw. And again, people think, oh, Kirk and Nevada always talk about quarterback. And I was like, you know why? Because it's miserable to go against. That's why. Not because I'm some guy that just loves chiming about running quarterbacks. I've seen it. I've lost to them before. I've been like, I've coached and talked to defensive coordinators who are like, damn, this guy, when a guy just sits in the pocket for the defensive linemen, for the linebackers, for even the coverage guys, the guys that are they can go out, run off in man coverage and never worry about a running quarterback going down the sideline. And that was the magical thing about like when Michigan were in man coverage in 04, Troy would take off and those guys had no idea that he was running. And you just hear the crowd start roaring and he'd be 30 yards down the field. And, he had that miraculous performance where, Anthony Gonzalez caught that early touchdown and Ted Ginn had the punt return. But, without Troy, I'm a guy, I've got 6 pairs of gold pants, 4 from when I played and started. And if I don't have Troy, I don't think I have any pair. Well, the last one with Todd, maybe. Obviously, I could win that one without Troy. But the other 3 where we really built the momentum in the series, there's no way I have this without Troy. Because you look at the 04 game, he absolutely carried us. 05, we were down, I want to say 12 points with 7 minutes to go in the big house.
And 9.
Yeah, 9. Okay, so yeah, we needed the 2 scores basically, and him and Santonio and Gonzo and obviously we can block, but in the Ohio State Michigan game, the lines of scrimmages are generally pretty even. They're pretty close. A lot of times the skill guys got to win. The edge guys, like you look at Michigan, it's like their running back ran away from our outside guys. The lines both played well. I don't think either side had a sack. I think Michigan might have had 1 late sack, but it's pretty even. But the skill guys got to win. And we had Santonio, we had Teddy, and we ended up winning that game. And then obviously 06, Troy was his Heisman moment, his virtuoso performance where he's thrown it all over the field. And that was a game where people don't realize how tough Troy was in that 06 Michigan game. Our entire game plan was we're going to go empty. Empty means there's 5 offensive linemen, 5 wide receivers, and we're going to spread Michigan out because they were huge on disguising blitzes. So Jim Bowman and Jim Tressel are like, look, we're going to go empty, which puts a lot of stress on the offensive line because we don't have any chips. We don't have any help. So we got to pass block Lamar Woodley and Alan Branch and all these really good players. And Troy, he's like, when they bring 6 guys in cover 0, Troy's going to get hit right in the teeth, and he has to get rid of the ball before he gets hit in the said teeth. And he did that, and we scorched him. And we'd never shown that ever. But that was something where, Troy was tough enough to deal with it. Like he's going to get hit by Lamar Woodley or Sean Crable or one of these, maniac mammoths coming off the edge, and he was able to stand in there and take it. And, and people don't realize how hard that is. Like when you're a quarterback and it's an empty set, they're bringing 6, you only got 5 blockers. So that last guy, you got to throw it before you get killed, and our receivers won on their routes. And again, but that was, a game where, up to the Florida game. And I feel terrible that Troy gets hammered for that Florida game because, we all played like shit. But the thing is like, Troy, he was the best big game player in the history of Ohio State University up till that point. And I think that was part of the reason why there was so much shock and awe when we lost, because they're just like, well, we got Troy, he beat Texas, we went to Iowa, we beat them, we Michigan, went to Penn State, like whatever. It's like, he was a guy that just always won the big games. But I don't know. It's interesting. And with CJ, like, I never saw that. Like, I never saw that fire. And Troy's the kind of guy, like, as weird as with the quarterback, he's the guy you could go down a dark alley with, and he's not scared to beat someone's ass because he's just a tough guy. And that's
yeah. But Kirk, who in college football right now has a quarterback that doesn't run? Go through the list. Who has a quarterback that doesn't run? And the reason that it's so devastating is because if you don't run, it makes offense so hard. It makes offense so hard because you get none of the easy yards. You get none of the I just broke contain and I ran for 7 yards and now it's 2nd and 3 type of gains. You never get the I broke contain on 3rd and 4 and picked up the first down with my legs. Because you think about it, when you're throwing the ball, I look at the big plays where we threw the ball to Cade Stover in the end zone, and you've got to throw it perfect. And then the guy's got to catch it. And then you got to hope the guy doesn't knock it out from his hand. A lot of things have to happen when you're throwing the ball for it to be a successful play. But when you're running, one thing has to be successful. You have to run faster than the defensive guys, get across the first down line, and then slide down and not fumble the ball. That's what you got to do. And when you take that out of an offense, man, it just makes it so difficult. It makes it so difficult, and it makes it so easy for the defense. If the defense does not have to account for a guy, they don't have to spy the quarterback, breaking and running. They don't have to, rush, contain, and just, not turn the corner, not bend around the corner, not worry about the guy slipping through a gap and kind of moving through there. Boy, you're making it easy on the defense. And I just think that, CJ's reticence to run has really, really hurt the offense the last 2 years, despite and it especially manifests itself in short yardage and in the red zone. And that's where our problems have been. And I'm not laying it all at CJ's feet, but I really think that we've hampered ourselves by having a quarterback that hasn't been forced into running more.
Yeah, and our short yardage offense has been maddening because, again, it's not Cade Stover's fault that we decided to throw it to him on 4th and 1, because I love Cade Stover as much as any player that's ever played at Ohio State. He's a tough kid. He's a great kid, prideful kid. But, we've run that hide play multiple times. And if, you have any sort of, intuition as a defensive coordinator like Jesse Minter does, you're going to cover that. So, and when you have Marvin Harrison Jr. on the field and you need any amount of yardage, he's the guy I'm going to throw it to. I'm just sorry. I mean, I know you got to get Emeka his touches and get Julian 2 touches or whatever he gets a game, but I'm throwing it to Marvin, period. Pavlos, my big dog, appreciate you. Another super chat, Ken. Chances of hiring a true OC play caller so Day can be head coach. If high chances, who is your call?
I think it should be done. Now, will it be done? I really think it depends on how this year ends. But I think it's a worthy conversation. I think that there's a reason why. How many college coaches call the plays? Maybe it's a lot, and maybe I'm just not aware of it. But I think it's really that you've been on the sideline. Nobody has to tell you how chaotic it is on the sideline, and the idea that you're going to be the CEO of the entire company and manage everything that's going on this crazy special teams and defense and offense and guys running out and out, and then you're also going to call the plays. I just think it's so hard. I think Ryan would be well versed, to get somebody to do that. Again, names, we could just pick out the common names in terms of doing that. But if you're going to keep Hartline around, maybe he's a guy that you give him a chance to call plays. You want to keep him around. You want to get him from taking another, head coaching job. He's going to be in demand. He's been offered big money to be a coordinator elsewhere. You know that, and I know that. So maybe that's the next path for him, is that you promote Hartline to offensive coordinator and let him call plays. But I definitely think they've got to take it out of Dave's hands. But I think it's too big of a job. And I know for a fact from people that are been on the headset when the bullets are flying, that they say that Ryan tightens up when there's a little bit of adversity, and he starts calling the same plays, and he starts, kind of leaning on the front page of the play sheet, and he's not as creative as he is, not as loose as he is when the games are well in hand. And I've heard that for years, and I haven't really believed that. I believe it now. I believe after Saturday, I believe it. And I think we all saw it, and I think Ryan would do well to put that in somebody else's job.
I mean, I'd give it to Kevin Wilson. Say, Wilson, you call the plays. I mean, he was a fantastic play caller at Oklahoma. Worked for Bobby Stoops. Bobby Stoops is a defensive guy, so Kevin really got to run that offense. I think Coach Wilson's one of the finest offensive minds in the country. I think he has input on the game plan, but let him call the game. Because I'm the rare. I'm literally the only combination of media guy. I've been on the headset. I've sat next to the offensive coordinator. I sat next to Tom Herman. I sat next to Jim Bolin while they're calling a game. I see how they script it out. I see, hey, Kirk, what are we getting versus 3x1? Versus this look, and I would literally have photos, I would draw out the defenses we're getting, the blitzes we're getting. I would show them. I would walk through it in between drives. That's something that if you're down the sideline, you don't get to do any of that. It's just it's like you're standing next to a jet engine the whole time trying to do it. When you're up in the booth, it's comfy, it's relaxing. It's not, it's always stressful, but it's you can have your play sheets. You can kind of have your little zen spot. It's like they show Jim Knowles up there, and he's got his chew in. He's got his little sheets everywhere, and he's kind of picking out what they've done. He's got a little tally mark for how many times he's called certain things.
Hold on, Kurt. Now, with Knowles says you just have 2 sheets. One says cover 0, the other says cover 1 on it. Is that what Jim Knowles has?
I think he just has two that both say cover zero. No, I'm just kidding. He has zero, and then he has double secret zero probation. No, but I mean, like, in that game, it was like, when you see these plays where these guys just go in the last 40 yards on the screen, there's nobody around them. Usually that's cover zero or cover one. And the one where Lathan Ransom misses the tackle, that was cover one because it was man across the board. And you had a deep free safety. So that's one. I mean, even got some football 101. And when you've got six guys coming and everyone else is man coverage and there might be an ad blitzer, and it's cover zero. So, I mean, if there's no middle field safety and everybody's manned up, that's zero. So it's the riskiest call in all of football, and it means that they're bringing everybody. So, you better have guys that can hang in there in coverage, and you better have some guys in the back end that can, a corner that can chase down a running back and make a tackle. All right, King, I got another super chat. Really want you guys' perspective on this last two seasons. Who has Ryan Day out-coached? I can't think of a single one. I can't think of a single game he has made his money on this season just having more talent than you think. That's a great question. Nevada, have you go first?
Well, I mean, I guess when you're limiting, 2020 against Clemson, I mean, that was kind of the zenith. I think that was kind of that was the best that we've ever seen of Ryan Day. That was kind of a virtuoso performance. They shredded. I thought a really good Clemson team on both sides of the ball, and that was kind of his finest moment. But since then, it's hard to come up. Maybe Penn State. I think he's done a couple of good jobs there, but he's struggled. And again, the job of a head coach in college football is so much more than play calling. It's recruiting. It's keeping the program, free from violations. It's. I mean, there's so much that goes into it. And Ryan Day is he's a great steward for Ohio State, and that's why you haven't heard anything on this call where it's like, hey, let's fire Ryan Day. But I think we got to fix Ryan Day, and I think that starts with Ryan Day starting to fix himself. And if I was Ryan Day, I would, whether it be Hartline, whether it be Wilson, or whether it be somebody from the outside, I'd get somebody else to call the plays. And you always reserve the right to overrule, much like Urban Meyer did. You could still have a lot of input. You could but boy, he's got to fix that first, and then we got to find a way to fix the defense. I'm still on the Knowles train. I still believe that Knowles can get it done until he proves otherwise to me. And I still believe in him. I'm not ready to abandon ship on that. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe next year at this time we'll have this Tuesday night chat and we'll be like, oh my gosh, Knowles did it again. But no, I believe in Jim. He's a smart guy. He's all ball. He's a man. He stands up and accepts responsibility. At the end of that game, he didn't put it off on anybody else. He accepted responsibility for what happened, and I respect him for that. But back to Ryan Day, Dabo Swinney 2020, and after that, it's been a little lean.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's we out talent everybody we play. The only team on the schedule that even has close to the talent we do is Michigan, and we still had more talent this year, but I think their culture is stronger right now, and it's not just because they whooped us 2 straight years, but I mean, you see the fever on their sideline, how these guys, they're into it. They're about each other. They just have like an energy, and obviously it's easy after you win to have great energy and be all excited and rah, but it's just like, it's palpable, and they might have snoozed through the Illinois game and whatever, but when it came time to go against Michigan, they're ready to go. I mean, like in my experience in 04 and 07, when we were going to the Michigan, we lost the week before. We lost to Illinois at home. Devastating, god-awful, number one in the country, losing to an unranked team. Just unfathomable, terrible job. And we came back and beat Michigan the next week. And then 04, we lose out at Purdue, 6-4. We're garbage that year. We're a young team. We're a lot like the team that could project to be next year, where we're just young. There's a lot of guys that got to take their lumps because when you're a bunch of sophomores and freshmen and you're going against a bunch of seniors, like with that year we played, Wisconsin was super senior laden, Iowa was super senior laden. A lot of guys just beat our ass because they were just older. They're better. That Wisconsin team had this, Antash Hawthorne and a bunch of the guys that beat that 03 team up at Camp Randall. You know, they beat us in that famous game where, you know, Rob Turbo Reynolds choked the guy. And I don't know if that was the Lee Evans slip game. I think it was against Gamble, but you know, people, you know, they notice that stuff. Nick Heckman, another super chat. Appreciate you, my man. Huge one here. Thanks for the amazing work you guys do. Thoughts, why do you think he doesn't run? This is on CJ again. Is it more of a day thing because of the concepts, or is he scared of him getting hurt? Also, where were some of the freshman receivers? That is a great question, because ever since signing day, I don't think I've heard any of the freshman receivers' names. And like, you know, we get reports from your training camp practices where, you know, guy had a good day, guy looked good in 7-on-7, might want to watch out for this guy. But I mean, shit, since camp broke, I haven't heard a name of a single freshman receiver, which is strange because, like, you know, last year we at least knew who Emeka was. We knew who Marvin was. Obviously, they both popped off in the Rose Bowl, and obviously Jackson Smith-Njigba was a sophomore last year, a junior this year. And then, you know, Jackson Smith-Njigba, his freshman year, he had that spectacular catch in the first game. But this year, I mean, it's almost like you are these freshmen all going to transfer because none of them played. Nevada, what's your thought on the freshman wide receiver class that really didn't exist this year?
It's been one of the great mysteries of all time, because you're right. I mean, we were talking about Jackson Smith-Njigba before people knew who Jackson Smith-Njigba was, and obviously Marvin Harrison and Emeka, same thing. None of these guys, I'm not hearing anything, and I'm not saying that's the worst thing in the world, but it's odd, because generally we are hearing stuff, you know, like you said, you're getting those rave reviews, you're getting those positive things. I mean, I've heard a little bit about Jaden Ballard, but other than that, like, nothing. And I don't know, but you know, again, it's a question. You know, I mean, Brian Hartline, for all the accolades he gets, we've got to take a step back and say, well, Brian, what about all these guys? Is this an evaluation thing? Is this a development thing? Or is this a what thing? But maybe they'll come out and they have their coming out party in the playoffs or in the bowl game or next season. But I haven't heard anything, and it's unlike anything I've never seen a group of kids come in so highly touted that I've just heard absolutely nothing about since then. And it's been odd. It's certainly been odd. As for CJ, I think CJ was recruited here with the thing from Ryan Day that, hey, we're not going to be that Urban Meyer running quarterback thing. We're going to be a drop back passing kind of thing, CJ, and that's what I think Ryan Day has preached to CJ, and I think CJ really took that to heart. I don't have to guess. I mean, CJ has said it. He's come right out with the famous "I'm not a running back" thing. I'm not. I mean, to me that goes right up there with the Charles Barkley "I'm not a role model" type of commercial. But like, I'm not a running back. I don't do the running back thing. I think it was how he was sold on coming to Ohio State, and I think it was Ryan Day's perspective on what he wanted for the quarterback position. And again, if we're just a drop back passing from the pocket type of quarterback team, we are the outlier in college football. We are almost becoming the outlier in the National Football League, which was unthinkable 5 years ago. 5 years ago, they were all pocket passers. They were all Tom Brady and Eli Manning and Joe Flacco, and that's all they were. Now, the vast majority of the guys can run. They can either run a little bit or they can run a lot bit. And if you're not running, then you're really kind of creating problems for yourself. And I think Ryan Day's got to really check himself on that in terms of, hey, we all laughed about the JT Barrett, broken wagon offense and stuff like that, but JT had a pretty good record against Michigan, won a lot of games, broke their back a lot of times with him kind of hobbling through the line and running for big first downs and making big plays. And I think Ryan Day's got to check his offensive philosophy as well as what type of QBs he's looking for, because if we're not running, then we're disadvantaging ourselves. And I think that's what CJ came in to do, was to not run.
Well, I think like one of the big advantages about a running quarterback is that it's weatherproof. People don't talk about that, but last year when we went up and it was a little cold, a little snowy, hard. The ball's like a cinder block. It's harder to catch, and we still threw it well. But when you get these, like you're playing in a monsoon, terrible rain, or you're getting blinding snow or something where it's hard to throw and catch the ball, like the running game's still there. I mean, that was, again, I always talk about the 07 Michigan game. My senior year, we played up at Ann Arbor, and it was cool. Oh my God, we got a super chat from Michigan guy. I appreciate you, man. Congrats, King Bronco Harris. Thanks for tuning in. Glad you guys are feeling yourselves right now. It's been a while, but hey, you guys won fair and square. Can't say anything about it. You guys won the rushing game. I mean, the craziest thing, the one thing I will say, just out of the blue about the Ohio State Michigan game, is that over the last 21 years, the team that has won the rushing battle has won every single time. Which, again, Nevada, I'm going to throw it to you right now, because how many yards did we have in the second quarter? And then how many did we finish with again? Can you give me those numbers?
No, Kirk, 124 yards rushing halfway through the second quarter, and Michigan finished the first half with 10 yards rushing, and they outrushed us 254 to 150 for the game. I mean, it's one of the most stunning statistics. Now, again, it's a little bit, by those long runs at the end that kind of jacked it up and stuff. But the fact that we just stopped running the ball, and the bottom line is they never stopped Chip, or I shouldn't say never. They rarely stopped. Chip was running well. We just iced him, went away from the run, and for me, that's where the game turned, was when we stopped running the football. We stopped running that tight zone inside. The only running plays that we ran were outside kind of stretch, or the last run, as I refer to it, by that they called up for Chip on that 3rd and 3, which was that weird pitchy thing to the outside where there were like 19 Michigan guys waiting for him. At that point, we just abandoned the run altogether. But now, you got to win the rushing battle. You got to be fully committed to it. You got to stick with it. I mean, Michigan had 10 yards rushing in the first half and went back to the run in the second half to kind of, take the game when the game was still in doubt. It wasn't like they were doing that when they were up by 14 points and just run up the clock. I mean, they went to the run as a tactic, and I don't know if Ryan Day would ever do that, but I think he's got to embrace the run. He's got to learn to love the run a little bit more, and hopefully he's learned a valuable lesson for this game, and maybe he'll take that into next year. We can only hope so.
Well, yeah, I mean, I just, when you look at the full scope of the offense, like there's so many questionable things. Again, like I'm not armchair quarterbacking, that's kind of what I am doing. But like, we ran a beautiful, kind of orbit motion sweep to Xavier Johnson early in the game, beautifully blocked, hard as hell to defend against, got, a big chunk of yardage to start the game off. And we never ran that play again. And I was like, that's like the weird thing about Ryan is like, I think we ran a pass off of that same motion later in the game, because they build these systems where it's like, okay, we run this play one time, then the next day we're going to build a pass off it, or we run this motion and we pass off it, then we're going to run it the next time. But I think you run that play a few times. And when you're banged up at running back, a guy that I would love to hand the ball off to is Emeka, because Emeka's got the skill set where he could be a guy that he's like a Monroe St. Brown, where they run jet sweeps with him in Detroit all the time. He's on my fantasy team. I watch him every week. I love that kid because he's not only is he fluid and have the agility to really turn the corner on a play like that, but he's tough as nails. And with guys like that, you just have to manufacture 15 touches a game for him. And I think Emeka, he's that kind of guy. It's interesting to be like with the receivers though, like I never could understand why we couldn't get anything out of Jaden Ballard this year. Like I think he had that one long touchdown, but make him the punt returner, have him do something. Cause like, that's a kid that, we're going to need him next year. I mean, we need a third receiver, and I just don't know if ideally, obviously Marvin's Marvin, Emeka's Emeka, Julian Fleming's a guy that I think could easily be passed if there was anybody dipping at his heels. But I mean, Julian, there was even a rotation at receiver like we've seen in past years. I mean, the rotation was basically 3 guys. So, it's real interesting what's going on in that room. Yeah, we're getting a lot of Henderson or Pryor next year. That's a great question. That's funny. Pryor didn't even play all year, and people are saying it's going to be Trey Henderson or Pryor. That's a great one. Appreciate that, Alexander. What do you think, Nevada?
I feel bad for Trey. I mean, Trey had a great freshman year, preseason All-American, even some conversation, some Heisman conversation, and he's had Plantar. And I heard some idiots on the internet go, "Oh, now I heard he's got torn ligaments and it wasn't plantar." No, that's what plantar is. Plantar is just torn ligament. He just didn't want to put "I have plantar" because people don't understand what that is. But his foot was all messed up the entire year, and he's been forcing it. And he had a tough year, but boy, that kid's he's tried to gut it out. But the fan base is they've been brutal with him. And I feel bad for Trey. I really do, because I think he deserves better. I mean, that kid has played through a lot of pain this year, and I've had plantar, and just walking is difficult. And for anybody who's had it, imagine trying to jump cut or play the running back position or play any position, period. But the running back position, especially where people are, every play at the running back ends up with you on the ground with 5 people on top of you. That's tough. That's tough business to take care of. And I feel bad for Trey because he's a terrific player, a terrific kid, but tough year. And Ohio State fans can be brutal when they turn it when they decide that you're the whipping boy. You are the whipping boy. And I've had fans whipping him for the Michigan game, and he didn't even play in the game. So it was like that's when you know that you've officially entered whipping boy status, when you get blamed for losing the game when you didn't play in it. So at Pryor, Henderson, I'll use the old why not both? So we're going to need both of them, and hopefully Evan comes back and flashes that form that he had last spring, because we could sure use it.
Yeah, David Great Show, another super chat. Appreciate you, my man. Should we have used Chip and Hayden mixed together on Saturday? Yeah. Again, of all of the stupid and perplexing things from this Michigan game, our running back rotation was, as bad as running cover 0 and 1 and being ultra aggressive versus Michigan's running game was, our running back rotation. And I thought Chip played, for a guy that hadn't played running back and had like one carry all year, I thought Chip played his ass off. I mean, he really did. But Dallin Hayden carried us the week before, and he just is like a window dressing guy, which, I mean, Nevada, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, again, I thought Chip was great. I wasn't even sure. Again, I love Mayan Williams. You can go back and read some of my posts about Mayan before, but Mayan was clearly limited. Couldn't do some things, and it cost us. Some of the carries that he vultured out there at 60% or 70% or whatever he was trying to do could have been big plays. Could have been game changing plays, and that's on Alford. Alford, you got to know what your guys are doing. If you can't make it, Mayan should have sat. I would have given all the carries to Donald, who did a great job the week before. And Chip, boy, like I said, you don't give him a carry all year, and all of a sudden you just throw him out there in the Michigan game and say, "Let's go." Tribute to him, what a good running back he is. But yeah, those were the 2 guys that I would have carried the ball, and it may have cost us. We broke that down on a podcast earlier in the week. A couple of carries by Mayan on an early possession when we were up 10-3. We had a chance to go up 17-3 and didn't run them very well. Would Dallin have taken those? Maybe Dallin might have housed it. So, got to ask tough questions. But yeah, Dallin and Chip would have been my guys.
Yeah, I mean, that running back room is like it's perplexing this year because Trey's been hurt, Mayan's been hurt. We don't have a running back committed yet, and signing day is in like 2 weeks. We lost Mark Fletcher. He got purchased by the Florida Gators. We whiffed on Richard Young. We whiffed on Baxter. We wanted to take 2 running backs in this class, and hell, we don't have any right now. So, I don't know if we're gonna go portal shopping. I don't know. And again, like, the fascinating thing is, are all the running backs that are in the room now? I would project mine would go pro. I can't imagine you'd want to come back for another year. Are any of those guys, is Evan Pryor going to hit the portal? Is Chip, do these guys want to go be feature running back somewhere? Do you want to go be a 15, 20 touch guy somewhere else? Or do you want to, kind of hang in there and hope Trey Henderson gets hurt and hope that you get your little dribbles, And again, I'm just, projecting, but when you're a running back, in football, if you play anywhere and you're good, they'll find you. That's running back. You guys play fantasy football. You see where some of these guys come from, and you're just like, wow, this is, they're not, there's a lot of good ones from Alabama, obviously, but there's a lot of ones that are from, Kareem Hunt's from Toledo, a lot of guys from Mac schools. It's just kind of all over the map. But the big thing is you got to play, and you got to prove that you're a horse and you can develop your skills. And the way the rotation went, it's like, Chip Trayanum, up until the last week, it was kind of a lost season. He transfers here, projected to be a backup linebacker, never plays, covers kickoffs. They try to make him kick returner. He's not really great at that. And then he becomes the feature back for Michigan. It's because why not? Why wouldn't we do that? So that'll be interesting. Yeah, I agree. Dallin, he does remind me of Zeke. I don't think he's as high end as Zeke, because Zeke was a top 5 pick. So that's pretty gaudy. That's like a Saquon. If you're a top 5 running back, you're a different tier than Dallin Hayden, I think. But I think he's very similar. He runs similar. He's not as fast. He's not as physical. He's not as big. But that's not bad, because Ezekiel is, for my money, Ezekiel, when he was at his peak, he's the best running back in Ohio State history. And I love Archie, and I love Beanie, and I love all these guys. But, Ezekiel is a different animal. And his NFL career has kind of proven it. He's kind of tailing off a little bit now. But, like, when he hit the NFL, he was a house of fire. And plus, at 14, he carried us down the stretch, ran for a zillion yards against Bama, Oregon, Michigan. He's a war daddy. What do you think? About ready to wrap this thing up? We've been going for almost an hour and 45 minutes. This is the longest show we've ever done.
Yeah.
Any closing thoughts, Nevada? And we'll put this on all of our podcast formats, guys. This will go up on YouTube. It'll be on Spreaker tomorrow. So if you guys want to rewind it, send it to some people. It'll be on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean. It goes to about 50 different places. So search Buckeye Scoop. You'll find it. We'll put it up tonight. Any final thoughts, Nevada, as we wrap this thing up?
Bet the USC TCU money line emotional hedge parlay. Join Nevada, and we're going to make some money, or we're going to have some fun with Ohio State in the playoffs. But either way, you win. So it's like I'm giving you like an instant ticket to happiness right there. You can go on Boveda if you don't have like a local sports book. You can do this. It's plus 195 on that. That's 2-1 on your money, and you can have a great week of entertainment. And if one of those teams loses, we go to the playoff and we all party. So that's Nevada's final parting gift. It's like my Christmas gift out of Nevada's stocking to all my little elves out there in the internet land. Nevada's 2-team emotional hedge parlay.
I love it. And final question: your percentage odds of us making the playoffs, Nevada?
66%.
I like that. I'll go 80%. Why not? I think it's a good deal. Nick Heckman, super chat. Appreciate the therapy session. Guys, if you guys enjoyed this video, please leave us a like. That's a huge deal for these videos. It drives up our how easy it is for people to find us on YouTube. If you're on Spreaker, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, if you leave us a 5-star review, it's huge. It really does a ton for us. So we appreciate you guys. If you guys enjoyed this, let us know. Get on that. It's funny. As soon as we get off this, we're hopping right back on the boards, and we're going to be grinding on the boards for a little bit, talking to all the members of BuckeyeScoop.com. But we appreciate you guys tuning in. I hope you guys had a blast. We love doing these. Nevada, you up for doing more of these? I think these are a blast. Oop. I think he took off. Just me now, boys. So, but I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you guys and girls for all tuning into this. Again, we're in this thing together. It's tough right now. Obviously a disappointing loss, but the thing about college football is these kids are resilient. They're tough. And if we get in this playoff, man, you better watch out, because we're gonna have some angry Bucks, and it'll be exciting. We're gonna be an underdog. I kind of like us as an underdog. I think some good things can happen, and it's gonna be a good time. So as always, BuckeyeScoop.com. If you guys aren't a part of it, it's a fantastic community. You don't believe the type of people on here. I was getting texts last night before the Christina Johnson stuff broke. It said, stay tuned. And I was like, what in the hell is going to go wrong? And then Christina Johnson gets fired in the middle of the night. So we've got some amazing people. Some people you don't even believe belong to this site. So you guys should subscribe to it. You'd enjoy it. It's a very well moderated, very fun board. Really, really razor sharp people, high end people. You should give it a shot. So I appreciate you guys as always. I hope you guys have a great rest of your night, great rest of your day. Thank you, Buckeye Nation, as always. And thank you, Scoop family. I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Thank you guys for tuning in. Go Bucks.